we can start with Maija Hovila, the Chief Analytics Officer of KONE. In case KONE is unfamiliar to you, it's a global leader in the elevator and escalator industry. KONE is not only about moving people vertically from place A to place B, it's also about making people's journeys safe, convenient, and reliable. KONE is also a long-time customer of Solita. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Maija Hovila to the stage.
Thank you, Topi and Maiju, for the opening. So indeed, we're going to talk about the platform utilization for value creation at KONE. So I'm Maija Hovila, Chief Analytics Officer at KONE. And in my role, I help KONE to utilize data for even better performance. But let's start from this video.
We could tell you a lot about our new elevators, their features, materials, and colors. But what really matters to us is how they relate to you, how you experience elevators, how our new smart materials can reject dirt, microbes, even fingerprints, and can deal with wear and tear, how users of buildings can connect in new ways, and how you're able to create new connections, all the way from entrances to home doors and office desks. Our solutions can make your life easier, richer, and more intelligent. This is why our new elevators have built-in connectivity. So whatever tomorrow brings, you'll be ready. By making the core of your building updatable, you're able to meet future needs and increase the value of your building. Entering the new era of elevators, KONE DX Class elevators, connecting more than floors.
So let me still talk a bit about KONE, so you understand a bit more about our company. So as Topi mentioned, we are a global leader in the elevator and escalator industry. And basically, our mission is to improve the flow of urban life, so make cities better places to live. We create innovative and sustainable and safe new equipment solutions, so elevators, escalators, and also building doors. And then we ensure that they are safe and they are maintained so that they are available for the customers to use. And then when the equipment comes to the end of their lifetime, we also offer modernization solutions. KONE was founded in Finland in 1910, so it's 111 years old this year. We have over 60,000 employees, a bit more than 500,000 customers, and our sales last year was about 10 billion euros. But to give you a bit more about the kind of scale of our business, so understand a bit about the scale. So on any given day, in normal situations, our equipment moves over 1 billion people. There are over 1.4 million units in service, so meaning elevators or escalators that we are servicing every day. And we operate in over 60 countries. So it's quite a day, and quite a lot is happening in our company every single day. But then in this, of course, like in 1910 when we started, elevators looked quite different to what they look today. So you saw that in the video how things are changing and the elevators are becoming connected and also gathering a lot of data and enabling new services. So here is illustration of the KONE digital platform. So really the elevators nowadays are a platform that enable solutions to be created on top that offer value for the customers. So we have our own KONE solutions. So for example, the 24/7 connected services, predictive maintenance service that enables us to ensure that the customers' equipment have a maximum uptime, that we can predict when something is going to happen with the elevators. We also have various flow solutions, so enabling the elevator to be called, for example, from your mobile and seamless moving in the building and within the buildings. It's possible to create various applications on the top of the elevators, and we have enabled APIs that enable the data flow and data exchange with the elevator and various services on top. And there's an example next as a video, as a service robot example. So lots of things can be connected to the elevator, and some of the examples, for example, the robots that can communicate with the elevator and then move without human interaction being in between. And there are also APIs to enable the owners of the buildings to kind of see what is happening with the elevators, the status, and that kind of stuff. But let's look at the example of the service robot in action.
We are a Marriott Autograph Collection hotel with 195 guest rooms. We are exactly like nothing else in that we intersect art and science together, and we bring it to life with multiple things in our hotel. One of them is our robot pair, Leo and Cleo, and they deliver items to our guest rooms. They mapped the hotel, and basically they just had the brain from the elevator connect to the brain of the robots to make a seamless transition, so when we actually put them in operation, they worked pretty flawlessly.
Okay, need to go and visit Leo and Cleo when the world is opening up. We also have other examples. So, for example, in Helsinki epicenter, there is a service robot who guides the visitors to the epicenter, which is like an office combo to their meeting rooms, and kind of enables better people flow, and also in these times safer people flow, so less human interaction in the middle. But of course, the platforms are, as was mentioned in the beginning, a lot about data. So what makes platforms really powerful is the data that can be collected and then utilized for improving learning and making the experience of the users or the customers even better all the time. And that's really the power of the kind of platform effect. The more you get data, the better algorithms you can create and optimize the way that you want to run your business. So of course at KONE as well, we have the data platform that enables the data usage and building the intelligent solutions. And really it's about integrating data from various systems, source systems and the equipment, and then creating intelligence on top. So we are implementing data catalog that enables us then to see what exactly is in the platform and what does the data mean, and kind of have a background and understand. Of course, there's a lot of data, a lot of complexity, a lot of details, so the catalog really helps us to then understand the details. We have various reporting solutions, of course, helping the decision making, so understand what is happening and kind of create intelligence from the data for reporting and also decision making. Operational apps, so that, of course, this side of the company has a lot of operations, so understanding the operations and enabling our operational people to utilize the data as well. Advanced analytic solutions, so of course utilizing machine learning and optimizing, for example, understanding more about the customers and what makes them tick and what create a really good experience. And that's something that kind of you need to define what is the objective that is really a key in making the algorithm. So for example, do we want to create the fastest people flow or the best experience? And these are not always the same thing. So it might be that people might want to kind of enjoy the moment and not be in a rush and get to the destination as fast as possible. So all of these things need to be taken into account. And then, of course, as you saw in the video, partner ecosystem, so enabling partners to then create solutions and utilize the data and exchange the data from the data platform as well. So that's kind of how the data comes together. Maybe a bit more, some examples about kind of how do we then utilize data for the benefit of the company. So our mission is to improve the flow of urban life, and of course, when we talk about elevators, key thing in the people flow is the waiting time. So how long do you have to wait for the elevator to come, and how does when you call the elevator, which call is going to be served first, and understanding about the waiting times, what drives them, and how do we optimize making sure that how many elevators should be in use and where should they be parked, and there's a lot of optimization that can be done in the kind of optimizing the waiting times and how the elevators are run. And that comes to the question that I mentioned, that is the best people flow the fastest or the best experience? And there's some in a moment I'll talk about one concrete example what that might mean. And then another example is the 24/7 connected services, so the predictive maintenance offering. So we utilize a lot of the elevator parameters and try to understand what happens when an elevator gets faulty, for example. So what are the events driving or leading to fault, so that we can predict and kind of prevent the equipment getting faulty. And of course, it gives a lot of insight about kind of what exactly needs to be done. So when the service technicians are going on site, they know which spare parts, for example, to take with them, so that we also get more sustainable. So we try to get the first time right, get the right part, so we can fix it and utilize data and intelligence for understanding that. Of course, sustainability is really big topic for us and key driver. So data can really help there as well to understand and optimize the way that we do the work. So because the data is kind of the basis and the foundation for all of these solutions, but then the key thing that you need to start from is like, what is the business actually trying to do, and what is the business problem that we are solving, and how do we create the best value for the customers, and that's kind of what we are working on a lot. Some examples, so these are kind of current solutions that we have. Some example, and then a bit about the kind of what's coming and what we are working on. So really learning about what works and what doesn't work enables us to then improve. So we have made a start, but then of course, it's all about learning all the time and creating better solutions and optimizing even better. So on the left-hand side on the slide, you can see the example about the kind of people flow optimization, and this is an idea or concept where you can utilize simulations in the kind of data creation. So, simulating the way that the equipment works gives you a lot more data than kind of waiting for the kind of real data to come. So, kind of then making the algorithms even better, creating the data, simulating the happenings and events will also enable us to then create even more optimized people flow. And then kind of putting that into the loop, and then kind of even remotely then controlling how the elevator groups are served and how the whole people flow works. And then on the right-hand side, there's an example I mentioned that the best people flow might not always be the fastest people flow. So there's an example that there might be two groups of people who have called an elevator, who are waiting in the lobby. And there's maybe the other group is made of one person who clearly is in a hurry, trying to get to the meeting on time and really kind of like, wanting to optimize the speed to the destination. And then there might be another group, where maybe 2 or more people who are discussing and clearly are enjoying their time and not in a hurry, and kind of like maybe not even wishing that the elevator is coming very fast. So then by utilizing video and image analytics, we can then kind of optimize based on the experience and trying to understand what is actually happening with the users, and how do we create the best people flow in that situation for that user of the equipment. So really, some really interesting concepts and ideas that we are working on. So something to then keep an eye on. And of course, we're learning all the time and going forward, utilizing the platforms and data and creating more services and solutions for the customers to benefit from. But that's all I had in the presentation for today.
Thank you, Maija. That was super interesting. We will have some questions for you now, and I have my first one from me, because I think driving change in exactly this digital ecosystem isn't easy, right? And looking at your time back at KONE, what are your personal learnings about it?
Yeah, I think I'd like to say that technology is easy. Maybe it's easier. So maybe the technological solutions are there and they are available, but what really is needed is the kind of change in the way that we do things. So, for example, trusting the data, trusting the suggestions, and kind of the way that our 60,000 people work every day needs to be changed, and kind of trusting the data and all that kind of human element is really something that is maybe quite often underestimated. So a lot of the things are maybe started from the technology or IT organization, and it's like, okay, we have done this, like tick the box, we have created these algorithms, but then really maybe forgetting that, well, the real value only comes when you start to use it, and if nothing changes and we keep doing what we've always done, then what's the point of actually having the solutions?
Yeah, I have a second question exactly about this. Like, how do you utilize the human? How do you involve people around elevators, I guess?
Yeah, so we do a lot of kind of trainings. So things like data literacy, so helping people understand why the data is so crucial and how we can help everybody in the company in their daily work. And then, of course, when we are creating the use cases, then involving the business people from the beginning. And that's something that I think we also can improve on, like how do you have the right people from the beginning to understand the real problem, like what is actually happening in the daily life of the users who are then supposed to be using that algorithm or the solution that we are creating. So a lot of like cooperation, working together, and it's really needs to be like end to end. So it's not like it can be done in a technology or IT team and then just like given or just go and use it, because it needs to be the full picture thought about.
Yeah. I think a further follow up on that, looking at your innovation process, how do you see inside out versus outside in terms of customer interaction or interaction with your employees or business stakeholders? Do you have a certain framework in place, or is it sort of case sensitive?
Yeah, it kind of depends a bit on the case. Of course, we work a lot with the customers. So our new strategy that was launched earlier this year is sustainable success with customers. So meaning that we are really co-creating with the customers and understand the customers' problems and then trying to solve them. Because like if we don't create value for the customers, then what is the point? But then, of course, internally, then kind of efficiency, doing things more intelligently and more kind of smartly, and utilizing the data for that is key. So, depending on the case, then the cooperation model is a little bit different.
Okay. And as a further follow up to that, you have operations in over 50 countries. Are the sort of business problems or client needs universal, or are there sort of, say, China-specific business or problems or customer value, or say something that we in Finland endure a lot? Have you noticed some sort of differences or commonalities?
Yes, I think there are lots of differences in the kind of maturity of of the different countries, probably driven also like the maturity of the technology and what's happening around. Of course, we are not in a vacuum, as you said in the beginning. So there's a lot of like, what is the status of the country? Do they have technologies and startups and kind of like things that happen around them and in their daily life they're also utilizing? So then I think the more that in our daily lives we are utilizing technology and data, the more demands there will also be in the kind of workplace to create these solutions.
Yep.
So, and China is often quite a special case because of all the data regulations and all the limitations that what you can do. And China is evolving so fast.
Yeah.
It's like the clock speed is totally different.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The complexity increases, right?
Yeah.
We do have one more technical questions, I would say, or more data related. What systems do you use for managing data? Do you want to elaborate a bit?
Depends on which data. Of course, we do have the corporate solutions, kind of ERPs and the customer CRMs and all of these like source systems, and then we kind of integrate those into the data platform that then enables us to utilize the analytics. So lots of different tools in the toolkit.
Okay. There's a second question from the chat that relates to insourcing and outsourcing. I think I could probably expand that question a little bit on partners. Maija, you said that sort of ecosystem development is also partner-driven. How do you see the role of partners from your perspective in developing the ecosystem? What are things that you need partners for? What are capabilities or skill sets that you want to take in-house in KONE?
Yeah. Of course, like we need partners. We don't and we can't hire everybody in-house, and it's also not very efficient. So it's a mix of like internal and external partnerships working together in an agile manner. So being one team and working together, not like externals do this and internals do this and they don't collaborate. So it depends a little bit on the case, but basically how I think about it is like you have kind of core competencies in the company that you need to have in-house, and you need to be on the driver's seat internally. And then you utilize partners for scaling and for specific knowledge that kind of course, the case is very a little bit. And when you go deep into the data science, there's a lot of variations, and no one can be expert in all of the kind of new technologies and new ways of working. So it's kind of like scaling and then getting the talent and the latest thinking.
You mentioned, sorry,
Do that.
cut you off. I just, I came up with a brilliant question, so I need to ask this. I like to hear my voice. Maija, you said data science. What does data science have to do with elevators or escalators?
That's the intelligence that we are creating.
Yeah, and what problems are we solving algorithmically or using statistical models? What does it relate to?
Yeah. So, for example, the predictive maintenance. Of course, there's a lot of data science goes. So we get the parameter data from the elevator, but then that means nothing. Then you have to kind of create the models to predict that, of course. And of course, we have different elevator types, and they have slightly different ways that they work. So there's a lot of detailed data science and modeling and algorithm building that goes into like really understanding what is going on with the elevators. And that's something that is also that we are finding that it is the most valuable people are the people who know data science, but they also know the details of the company. Yeah. And that's something that you can't really buy from outside. So like the core knowledge of the business and how things work. Of course, a company our age, there's a lot of history and a lot of things have been done. So you need to understand how things work in order to kind of make sense of the data and kind of understand all the nuances. And it's like the devil is in the detail. When you go into the detail, that's when you start to like uncover things. So on the high level, it probably looks like, but that's quite simple. You just make the predictive model and then you predict what's going to happen. But then you go into detail and there's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. You mentioned sustainability also in the context of KONE. Tell a little bit about more like how do you approach it, and maybe also like how do you actually measure sustainability in the data ecosystem?
Yeah, so the strategy that we launched earlier this year, sustainable success with customer sustainability, is definitely in the core of our business, and it's sustainability in a kind of wide sense, also including diversity and inclusion. And how do we how do we do things that are sustainable and are for the long term, so that we can be successful in the long term. Of course, in the sustainable, there's a lot of measurement, a lot of data that can be utilized, but something that probably not the details are discussed in here.
And I would imagine, based on what I know about your business, just having a predictive maintenance model itself is actually a act of sustainability, because if you guys can cut down on elevator maintenance visits, that has sort of an immediate effect on a number of environmental values that you do measure and track in terms of commuting to site and all those carbon costs.
Yeah, and we did make a pledge on becoming a carbon neutral. I think it was by 2030 or 2035. And of course, all of these things, like how do we optimize the fleet? Like all of the maintenance technicians who visit the site on a daily basis, how do you optimize their route? How do you make sure that they have the right spare parts so that we can do it the first time right? Yeah. And there's a lot of at this scale, there's a lot of things that kind of you can optimize and kind of do better with the help of data.
Yeah, I would imagine just having over 1 million pieces of equipment out there that you guys are maintaining, doing even a minute improvement in things have a huge effect globally on scale. So I think that's like really exciting and impressive.
Yeah, and if you think like, I used to live in London and how much time it takes for you to go through the city. So if you can optimize the route, in like maybe you should go to that site first and kind of help that on the sustainability, and then of course understand also like what is urgent and where do you need to go, and that's what the data can also help you understand.
Yeah, one further question about sustainability, because we know this is, for example, one of the topics that is pretty difficult to manage alone, right? You are part of the ecosystem, elevators are part of the buildings and the part of the city, the world. So how do you see the role, not only about the sustainability, but the role of the ecosystem partners that you have, and what is kind of the connection with them and KONE?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's the whole supply chain that needs to be looked at. It's not only like we are part of that, but then of course having the kind of the full view. And thinking about on a systematic level, and I think there is also a lot of kind of legislation, and this topic is really coming now fast to us, and of course we are then working to look at the big picture.
Maija, I think it's time. We'll start a little bit wrapping up our discussion today. We started today by talking about where we were a year ago, and we were talking about resiliency, and we were more or less still in the grips of a pandemic. A year from now, how do you see what kind of world will we be living in terms of KONE and your business and all things data?
I think hopefully we will be continuing in the path of like creating more innovative solutions and kind of helping people really live in the hybrid world. I don't think we're going to go back to the old world, but how do we enable people to kind of live in the hybrid world, maybe kind of reduce the contacts? I think even the influenza season is like it's beneficial not to have so many human contacts. So things like the robots kind of helping, and all those innovations that enable people to move fast, and the urbanization is continuing, even if there was a hesitation whether the COVID is causing people to move out of the cities, but I think it is still continuing. So, us helping our customers kind of have the best people and then have the equipment that they need for their benefit, and then kind of innovating and creating solutions based on the data.